When it comes to comic book superheroes, you need some kind of consistency between all the countless writers and artists who now have the creative side of a given character. And even when these characters are adapted to the big screen, there are certain elements so ingrained in the fabric of the character that need to stay the same. Whether it's a comic from the 60s, an animated series from the 90s, or a major blockbuster in the present day, this through line helps ground the audience and allows us to easily look at a hero from any medium by any creative team and say, yes, this Superman is an unbeatable force for good. He is immensely powerful and can always take the time to save a cat from a tree. This Wonder Woman is a fighter for peace. She'll never start the fight, but she'll always finish it. And this Batman has no powers, but he'll do almost anything to save the day. Almost. Because that one thing Batman is not willing to do is a key trait that puts him in a surprisingly short list of heroes. His unwillingness to cross the line and end a life. The real-world reason is that he's a fictional character with broad appeal for children. Can't have your golden goose go around and put any kind of bad taste in parents' mouths when they're buying all your merch. And on a storytelling level, Batman has such a beloved rogues gallery that putting, well, any kind of end to one of them limits future stories. Although comic book characters coming back from the dead is like a normal Tuesday in the comic book world. But let's put all that aside and just look at things from an in-universe perspective. Batman's insistence on sending his enemies to prison or an asylum instead of in the ground is a plot point that gets brought up time and time and time again, even making this a central plot point in the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. So this is a well-established and defining trait of what makes Batman, Batman, right? No one would ever question why not killing is as important to the character as the bat symbol, the Batmobile, the bat shark repellent, or anything else, right? Not even a beloved filmmaker who's had a lead role in bringing Bruce Wayne to the big screen for 7 years and reshaped how fans perceive Batman would miss the point, right? Right?
Batman can't kill, right? So Batman can't kill is canon. And I'm like, okay, well, the first thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens.
Okay, so Batman's no-killing rule is quite a controversial one. Most heroes in the DC universe don't have this rule. Superman sees it more like a guideline than an actual rule, and Wonder Woman is constantly at odds with Batman about willing to end a life. Even other members of the Bat family have crossed the line to put down an enemy. And morally speaking, which is the correct path? Following a self-imposed restriction to put a dangerous villain behind bars, knowing that any criminal justice system in Gotham is a revolving door that will put them back on the streets in no time, only for them to continue their reign of terror and hurt even more innocent civilians. Or putting an end to them permanently and never let them harm anyone else again. The answer is a bit more complicated, and there is a lot of gray area in this. But at the end of the day, he will always save the day the right way because he's Batman. Let me explain. If you really want to look at this debate, it actually began even before the creation of Batman. His creators, Bob Kane and Bill Finger, argued over this very aspect of the character. Kane took the approach that it put him more in line with the Pulp Fiction serials like The Spirit, while Finger saw it as a disservice to a character that saw his parents die in an alleyway to random violence, and it would make him a character who's seeking vengeance and not justice. Needless to say, he didn't have a line to cross in any of his appearances from Detective Comics number 27 to 37. And then, in his own titled appearance in Batman number 4, when he firmly states to Robin that they don't kill with weapons of any kind. So from spring of 1939 to the winter of 1940, yeah, he did end lives. He even shot a vampire with a silver bullet in Detective Comics number 32, but does that count? He also won't kill other intelligent beings like aliens, but he's definitely alright killing parademons, which I guess is doing them a favor because they're essentially mindless parallel dimension zombies. I guess if you really wanted to find the line of who counts to not being killed, Batman also does enjoy a good steak and portions of his suit are made out of leather. He himself won't kill animals, but he's not above punching an attack dog or two if he can't help it. But yes, it's hard to say that Batman's original run in 1940 were canon, because the Golden Age versions of all these heroes are in their own multiverse on Earth too. So I guess any iteration of Batman that would cross this line, like, say, Tim Burton's or Zack Snyder's version of the character, were based on the Earth 2 version, which is a very different version of Bruce Wayne, and not the Prime Earth Batman that the comics focus on. Then there's all the other Batman across the multiverse, and a good number of them also kill. I mean, yeah, there are many versions of Batman that would even go so far as to retire at the mere thought of killing, but not always. And Batman isn't perfect, as near perfect as a human being can be, but he's still human after all. He's always had the thought in his head, almost anytime he comes across Joe Chill, the man who killed his parents. And he does have the loophole of not being willing to save somebody, like he famously does at the end of Batman Begins to not save Ra's al Ghul. In the grander scheme of things, he probably could use this a lot more often, but he rarely ever does. The only 2 times in the comics he actually does pull this maneuver are actually with the same villain, KG Beast. Both times basically boil down to KG Beast trying to end a member of the Bat family. Batman beats him to an inch of his life in a location that's surely a death sentence if he doesn't save them, and then he just leaves. It's not confirmed if he dies in either standoff, well, obviously not the first time, and Batman always reasons that he's strong enough to survive being left alone. It's not a lot, but it is weird that it's happened to the same guy twice. So barring any time Batman stakes a vampire, monster, or robot, or any of the versions of Elseworlds out there, just him deciding not to save someone or those moments when Batman intends to kill somebody but is stopped at the last minute, there's only really one actual example of a time when actual Earth 1 Batman does follow through with the deed. And that was at the end of Final Crisis, when Batman has a gun that can fire a radion bullet. The only thing that can stop Darkseid from destroying everything in the multiverse. Yet there are a few asterisks to this. With nearly everyone defeated and Darkseid on the verge of winning, Batman is alone with him. And when it's a matter of saving the lives of everyone in existence or sticking to a moral code, Batman doesn't hesitate. He even tells Darkseid that this is the one singular moment to break his one rule, and he shoots Darkseid in the shoulder. And because Batman didn't go for the head, Darkseid shoots and seemingly kills Batman with an Omega laser, but the damage is done. Darkseid is now weak enough for Superman to finish the job. So why was Batman willing to cross the line for Darkseid, but never anyone else? Joker, who beat Jason Todd to death with a crowbar, gets to stand trial, only for him to claim that he's psychologically unfit to stand trial and wind up in Arkham Asylum. Then he's back on the streets before you know it. Why doesn't Batman just end him once and for all? Or hell, even stand back and let Wonder Woman finish him off instead of worrying if releasing Joker is just going to put more blood on his hands. Now, if only there were roughly 85 years of Batman comics, films, and animated shows that tackled this exact question head on. There's Batman Ego and Under the Red Hood, which both say that it's because if Batman crosses that line, then that line can get crossed time and time again. And if you made an exception for the Joker, then what about Two-Face? Then what about their henchmen? And soon, he'd be exactly like Thomas Wayne from Flashpoint. There's also the legal argument, since the bat signal is located on the top of Gotham Police Department, and Bruce only acts on police matters when the signal is on, that would officially deputize him as a civilian police officer. If he were to take a criminal's life, he would jeopardize that relationship with the Gotham PD, and then every single piece of evidence he's ever collected up until that point would all get thrown out in court. Batman already doesn't appear as a witness in any court proceedings, so the evidence that he's collected is the only thing keeping them there, and every single criminal that Batman has ever stopped would now be released. As so many stories have shown us time again, he's well aware of the downsides of the criminal justice system. He knows that nearly all of his villains are going to be set free eventually. At the very least, while they're in prison, he's buying the people of Gotham a little bit of time. And what are the ones that don't escape? Ending the villain's life stops any chance at redemption for the villains to reform, or the henchmen who do their time and return to life as regular members of society, which, happens far more often than people think. Catwoman, Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, Killer Croc, Clayface, and even the Riddler are all iconic villains who have turned to the side of good, or at least in that edgy anti-hero sort of way that people seem to like. But at the end of the day, the real reason why Batman has his one rule is because he can, and because he has to. Excluding Darkseid that one time, there has never been a point where Batman, a non-powered hero, couldn't save the day. As people always say, with enough prep time, Batman can beat anyone. While he wears the dark cowl and stalks the night to instill fear in the criminals of Gotham, killing would almost certainly instill a lot more fear in the villains. But what are the people of Gotham? To them, he is a symbol of hope. Gotham is a crazy, messed up place to have to live in. And honestly, rent has to be super cheap in a city that has to deal with some jerk spreading fear toxin one day, then you have to deal with the condiment king on your way to work the next. Batman is there to stand up for the little guy being harassed by the villains. And when that signal lights up the sky, the villains run in fear. But the people, they can breathe a sigh of relief knowing that they're safe. And if the people of Gotham saw Batman as a killer, then he'd be no different than any of the other monsters running around Gotham. And Bruce would have truly failed at being Batman. After all, his vow after his parents died wasn't to become cold-blooded vengeance. It was to keep the city safe, to make sure that no one ever felt that same way that the little boy did in Crime Alley. But what do you guys think? What do you think of Batman's no-kill rule? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this week's video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more weekly content on comic books and nerd stuff. I've been Eric, and you've been awesome.